Okay, now on to video troubleshooting part 2. Now we'll talk about some of the symptoms that you might see in the field, and some of these are listed in the CompTIA A+ objectives, and we'll talk about some of the solutions to those issues. First is VGA mode. What if your computer boots into VGA 640 by 480? Well, it could be that you don't notice, but it's actually going into safe mode or safe boot. So you check that first. Secondly, and normally you'll see safe mode in the corner of the screen, and you can check that pretty easily. But secondly, it could be that the driver has failed or it's not compatible with the video card. So you want to check the driver as well and either roll it back if a new driver was just installed, or update the driver and see if that fixes the problem. Once you get that nice crisp screen that you can fit lots of icons on, then you know you have that high resolution working properly. In addition, you might just have to check the resolution setting. And we talked about that. You might have your monitor here and it might be set to 800 by 600. It might be set to 640 by 480 or 1024 by 768. All of these old school 4 by 3 aspect ratio resolutions, which will leave a black area on the left and right sides of the screens. That is basically, what you want to look for. You want to check that resolution. You want to check that driver. Also, dead pixels and artifacts. You want to watch out for those. They can be really annoying, and especially if you have a brand new monitor. Now, if you see one on a brand new monitor, you really should box it up and send it back and get a replacement right away. You shouldn't have to mess with that. But if the monitor has been around for a while, you want to do that power cycle that we talked about. And, let it sit. Even let it sit overnight and see if that fixes the problem. Then plug it back in, turn it back on, see if that fixes the problem after you've let it sit overnight. And we mentioned the third-party software as well. There's a lot of third-party programs that can actually fix some pixels if it's a software issue. If it's a hardware issue or there's any damage to the display and your power cycling doesn't work, then you want to return that monitor because it could get worse. If the color patterns are incorrect, well, you want to watch out for that as well. You might have older computers that are set to a low color depth, like 8-bit color depth, which is rare, but you might see that. And even the 16-bit or 24-bit settings might not be enough for the person's application in question. So generally, it runs at 32-bit by default on most video cards within Windows. But you do want to check that, and we showed that also, again, just to show it again, in the screen resolution, advanced settings, and go to monitor and colors. And you might also check that in the third-party software. If you have third-party software from your video card manufacturer, you might do that as well. An overheat shutdown. Now, the display could shut down, and the display will go amber. This is a tough one to troubleshoot, but if you open the system and you feel the video card and it's really hot, like it burns your finger almost, then you have an idea there that, it overheated. And generally, the cause for that is a clogged up computer. Either the fans are really dirty and have either failed, and it could be the fan on the video card or an exhaust fan on the system, or there's just too much stuff in there and too many cables, and it needs to be cleaned up, meaning tie up the cables, do cable management. Or you might need a liquid cooling system or a more powerful video card. If there's no image on the screen at all, you want to check the power. You want to check the power button, see if it's on first. And then you want to check those connections, your video connection to the computer, your power connection from the monitor to the AC outlet. If the light is amber, that means it is plugged in, but it's not receiving signal. If it's blue, it's receiving signal. And if you still see nothing on the screen, if it's blue or green or a color like that, if you still don't see anything on the screen, then you're going to want to go into more troubleshooting. Maybe try safe mode. Maybe try rolling back the driver. Maybe try a different port. Make sure it's connected to the right port. Sometimes if it's amber and you don't see anything on the screen, you're not getting that data signal, and it could be because the resolution is incorrect, or the display was disabled. The display adapter was disabled. So there's a lot of possibilities with that. You have to remember that if it's amber, it's not getting any data signal from the computer. So there could be a lot of possibilities for that on the hardware and the software side. Next is dim image. Well, then you're going to check the brightness, and you check that on the OSD on the screen. And this is really common on laptops. You know, people reduce the brightness for a variety of reasons, and they might forget to increase it once they're in a darker area. So check that on the function keys on a laptop and the OSD on a monitor for a desktop. Flickering image could be an issue. That means, okay, the resolution's not right, or possibly the driver's not working properly. This was more of a problem with CRTs. You don't see it that often on LCDs, but it is possible. So you want to check that driver, check the connections, check the resolution. Distorted image. This could be a problem with the GPU. If the GPU overheats, it might not just shut down and display nothing and the monitor goes amber. It might actually distort the image or a part of the image. Also, if the display is damaged, you could get a distorted image in a portion of the display. So that's a possibility as well. Oversized image and icons. This is another one in the CompT objectives. If this happens, chances are the resolution is too high. The resolution is too low. Do that again. If this happens, the resolution is probably too low, or the DPI setting has been changed. If we go to screen resolution here, go back to display, we can set a custom text size. We can also change the entire screen size for text. You know, so it could be that it's set to one different one like this. You know, if it's larger like this, well, okay, we can modify that here. That's for the text size and window size. So that's separate from the resolution itself, where if we modify the size here, everything gets bigger also. So different settings there, but kind of the same thing. So those are a couple things to watch for oversized images and icons. And of course, if it is booting into VGA mode, you're going to get that as well. So you want to check that driver as well if that's the problem. But generally, that's a resolution issue. Next is the distorted geometry and burn-in. And again, these types of things are generally CRT. So just in case you get a question on cathode ray tube, because CRT is in the objectives acronym list, but it's not in the actual objectives. And actually, I do know some people that use them. You know, I do know some people that use CRTs in labs. You know, science labs and things like that, where they've just been using the same monitor forever because it works and they don't want to mess with it. They don't even want to disconnect anything from the computer for fear of it failing. So you might see that with an old CRT. And if you see that trapezoidal shape, you can modify that with the buttons on the screen that are on the edge of the display, or within the on-screen display in the menu. It depends on the age of the CRT. And the burn-in, well, that's usually an issue that can't really be resolved. You can try power cycling it, and you can try running a couple programs to help re-stimulate the pixels, but quite often it doesn't work, and burn-in is kind of permanent on those. But that's just in case you get a question on CRT, which is unlikely. It's also unlikely that you'll encounter those, but you know, that all depends. Some places they need all the space they can get, and CRTs are so deep that you have to have a flat panel. Other places don't have the money to upgrade. Other labs just keep what they have, and whatever, they just go with it. So just in case you happen to see a distorted geometry or burn-in, you know what to do with that. So that's some more troubleshooting, some symptoms that you want to look out for, and the potential solutions for those. But always keep your mind open. You never know. There might be additional solutions out there. It all depends. There's a lot of possibilities when it comes to the video subsystem. And so that's it for this sub lesson and for the lesson, and I'll see you at the next one.